In this video, we're going to discuss exceptions, and this is our presentation. Exceptions are errors like division by zero, trying to open an input file that does not exist on the file system, or perhaps trying to access an array index that is out of bounds. So on our Java samples page, we have a few examples of Java code that deals with exceptions. Okay, so the first example right here is having two statements that may potentially generate a division by zero. So we have a place over here with integer division and another place very similar inside this method divide. To deal with exceptions, we use try and catch construct. We call it try and catch block or try and catch statement. And in this statement, the try block is required, and then it has to be followed by either catch or finally or both. So in case of an integer division by zero, an arithmetic exception is generated by Java runtime environment. And in case of an exception, the catch part of the statement will execute. And in our case, what we do is just print the message division by zero and exit the program. Of course, the first time this will not occur because the divisor is not zero. But the second time we set the divisor equal to zero and call method name divide, which accepts two integer arguments right here, and arithmetic exception will be generated. When this exception is evaluated, as soon as division by zero is detected by the CPU on this line, Java runtime environment will create an arithmetic exception object. This is a Java object, okay, so the object will be generated and stored in memory. And from this point on, Java runtime environment will be searching for exception handler. So of course this method was called on this line. So basically the search for exception handler will be taking place right here, and inside this try statement we have a catch which matches the type of exception that was generated, right? So this is our reference to the exception. We can examine the properties of this exception object and do many other things to handle this exception. In our case, we just simply again print the message like this and let program to continue. Finally block is optional after the catch block, and the finally block executes regardless whether there was exception or was no exception. In our case, we're just displaying what the value of the variable z is upon return from the divide method, or if the exception has occurred. So the normal flow of events is that we begin to execute the statements enclosed in the try block, and if there is no exception happens during this execution, then we have a finally block, so the next statement to execute is inside the finally block. The finally block always executes if it's present in the try statement like this. Alternatively, if an exception does occur during the execution of the statements inside the try block, then the catch block with the matching type of exception, which we call the exception handler, will be executed. So we execute this statement in our case if we have an arithmetic exception resulted from division by zero, and the finally block will always execute.